Good morning or good afternoon, depending upon which part of the world you're joining us from. And we are heading into our mid-morning, towards close of morning session here in Dublin. And I'm very pleased to introduce Ibrahim Hussain, who is going to introduce us to the potential for online dispute resolution as a means of spreading compassion. And I'm fairly sure, Ibrahim, also humanity amongst faith communities and faith leaders. And so I'll hand over to Ibrahim to take the session. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, hope everyone's doing well. Do you realize that the overwhelming majority of faith leaders across the world have not completed professional training in alternative dispute resolution? From experienced ADR and ODR leaders and professionals, yet the faith leaders often try to resolve disputes for their congregations. I've often heard the phrase from many of various places of worship who've told me that their faith leader said to some disputing parties, just work things out, guys. I often heard this phrase. Faith leaders are trusted by their congregants and their congregations. That's why they are approached most often at the beginning of a dispute, and they have the power and influence to resolve and repair early. But without professional training in alternative dispute resolution, they will only add fuel to fire. It really struck me when I realized in 2020 that I was the first faith leader across the world to be admitted as a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. Since that day, I made a wish to disrupt the norm and work hard to inspire and train other faith leaders in ODR. Thank you for joining this session to learn about how we can transform faith leaders with ODR to build healthier communities globally by spreading peace, conciliation, and restorative justice. I want to quickly talk about my journey in ADR. There's a saying that a good friend of mine always reminds me of, and that saying is that there's no substitute for experience. So I actually landed in ADR or ODR when I was myself going through various disputes within organizations. And I was looking for organizations, I was looking for individuals who I thought would have the skill set to be able to resolve the disputes that I was going through, or many of my community members were going through. Now, I started my journey though, as an imam, as a faith leader. I was leading a congregation of a few thousand in Toronto. And obviously I had training in theology and in Arabic studies and Islamic studies. However, because I was a faith leader and because I was praying for everybody and people were seeing me every Friday, and people were seeing me at conferences, people would approach me and they would say to me, dear Imam, dear faith leader, can I speak to you? I need to talk to you about something. And sometimes it was couples, sometimes it was business leaders, members from business organizations. We have one, Dr. Ali Salim, who's here from the Islamic Cultural Center of Ireland. He can tell you so many stories. In fact, yesterday when I met him, he said to me himself that I will come to meet you, I will come to the session, but I have to do a mediation prior. So it goes to show how faith leaders are already directly involved in resolving disputes. But I was an amateur. I was trying my best. My goal was, okay, let me try to bring peace. Let me try to guide these people. Let me try my best to resolve this dispute, whether it's a business dispute, whether it's a family dispute, whether it's two brothers arguing about property, or whether it's, a brother and a sister arguing, or whether it's, a couple arguing. I was an amateur, but I thought I was pretty good, and I did quite well. People were contacting me, people were meeting me, and people were happy. But it was only when I actually obtained training, professional training in ADR and ODR, that really made me realize that without professional training and experience in any subject, the reality is you cannot make a drastic impact in any field whatsoever without the proper professional training in that field. So I then decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to, establish an organization, a global organization. But whilst I'm going to establish this organization, I'm going to make sure that I can learn from the best and the most experienced, because until you don't learn from the best, you can't aspire to become the best. With saving marriages, retrieving millions of dollars, millions of pounds and dollars of unpaid loans, and helping organizations across the world navigate and manage conflict, this is how I've been able to impact, people from my own faith and people from other faiths. Now, many of you faith leaders who are tuning into this session today, or who are present here today, or those of you who are not faith leaders, but you're connected to a place of worship and you've met a faith leader in your life. The reality is that if faith leaders can equip themselves with training in ODR and ADR, they can be the hero that their congregation needs. Because every congregation needs a hero. Every congregation is going through disputes. In fact, faith leaders find themselves involved in a dispute with their own board members, or with volunteers, or with their staff members. When I arrived here on Tuesday, I was in Dublin city centre. I went to a restaurant, had a nice kebab, and went to a coffee shop, famous donut shop here. And I got some messages on WhatsApp, and there was an individual, he was contacting me, and he said, I need to speak to you urgently. So then I took his call, although I was very tired. During this call, this individual broke down in tears. He said he had contacted many lawyers. He was separated from his children, from his wife. And he said to me, there's no one to help me. And I talked to him. We talked for about half an hour. We talked. I gave him some advice. I said, when I come back, we'll sit down and we'll continue to help you navigate through this difficult time. And to see that smile on his face, to see that positivity on his face. But the fact that I was in Dublin and this individual is calling me from Toronto, and he hasn't had access to so many other people, whereas there are so many faith leaders in Toronto and organizations out there, Islamic organizations and other organizations. This just goes to show that this work is so important. And if faith leaders can really obtain the necessary training, they can really be people who can help people from across the world. And again, an hour later, I got another call. I get another call on WhatsApp, and a friend of mine who's a lawyer and who works for Curry and Brown, he's head of contract solutions there. He's a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. He's a lawyer, he's an engineer and a surveyor. He started calling me and he said, you know what, I want you to become a trustee of the first organization in the UK, that is the first charitable organization in the UK that's going to be offering pro bono legal and alternative dispute resolution services. Now, why would someone offer me such a position for such an auspicious organization? It's because when you get the necessary training and when you have the skill set and when you are able to learn from the best, people want to work with you. People, understand that you have that accreditation, you have the trust, you have the influence, and you have the means to now be able to, do bigger things and greater things. Just recently, I completed training in restorative justice. I believe that every place of worship needs to be a center for restorative justice. Now, we've heard about mediation and arbitration and MEDOP and conflict management and conflict resolution. Restorative justice, my fellow viewers and participants, is so critical. And I was talking to Brian about that, Professor Brian, a couple of nights at the dinner a few days ago. Restorative justice allows individuals not only the ability to resolve and manage their conflict, but restorative justice allows healing post-conflict. It allows the parties to not only move forward and obtain closure, but it enables them to actually continue to have a relationship with each other. And restorative justice is something that needs to be connected with places of worship. Why? Because when individuals are attending a place of worship, and when they are seeking assistance from their faith leader regarding their dispute, in reality, they want to seek the pleasure of God. They want to do the right thing. They want to make sure they're doing the right thing. They want to do that thing which is just and rewarding. They want to forgive, heal, and move on. They want collective forgiveness, goodness, and kindness, and that's exactly what restorative justice facilitates. When congregants don't have access to restorative justice at their places of worship, they disconnect from their congregation, and they often try to even join other communities. Sometimes people go and join other faith groups if they don't get what they want within their own faith community. My friends, faith leaders will make the world a better and healthier place if they embrace ODR, if they embrace alternative dispute resolution, online dispute resolution, restorative justice. Healthier congregations mean healthier communities globally. Yes, that's true, because if one faith leader, like I'm leading a congregation currently of close to 1,000, Dr. Ali here, you're probably representing, I would say, all the Muslims in Ireland, thousands, tens of thousands. So just imagine if one faith leader, one pastor, one rabbi, or various different, faith leaders of different faith groups are leading a congregation of a few thousand. That means that we can impact millions of worshippers by training our faith leaders in ODR. And we can make sure that we are reforming healthier communities globally. And this is why I did some statistics, I did some maths. I love numbers. Obviously, numbers are very important. We were talking just now how Dublin is so expensive. So make sure if you are living here, make sure you're saving money. And especially with inflation nowadays, there's a saying my friend always said to me, money saved is money earned. If we only train 1,000 faith leaders in ODR in the next few years, then we'll spread peace, restorative justice, and conciliation to millions of people across the world. My sermons, presentations, and communication skills improved drastically when I completed training in ODR. So many congregants now express to me how they feel more inspired through my sermons and presentations. And you know what the reality is? Before, I used to prepare for speeches and people used to say, well done, that was fantastic. But now, the way I think about what I'm going to say, I'm so careful and considerate. I try to be so inclusive. I try to be so gentle. In fact, I think we were having a conversation with a couple of lawyers and some PhD students, and I remember asking them for forgiveness after a short discussion, because when you are trained in restorative justice and mediation and conflict management, you're always so cognizant and you're always so careful, and you're always making sure that you're a bridge builder. You're always making sure that you're making peace and you're spreading peace and harmony. Training in ODR enabled me to look at disputes with a very broad and wise mindset. I now help my clients and community members and members of other communities embrace and manage conflict efficiently. Spreading peace, conciliation, and restorative justice among my congregation and across the world for the Muslim community globally has enabled me to earn so much success and blessings. This work, faith leaders are blessed individuals. But if faith leaders can actively engage in spreading peace and conciliation, then their lives will be literally filled with blessings. I am so grateful that God Almighty guided me to ODR, conflict management and restorative justice, and mediation and commercial arbitration and med-arb, because this is the work of the prophets. This is the work of the saints of God. This is the work of the pious people. This is the work of the leaders of the world. Peace be upon all of them. In closing, I want to make an invitation to all of you, whether you're a faith leader, maybe you're not a faith leader, but you know a faith leader. Or maybe you have never met a faith leader, but maybe one day this inspires you to meet a faith leader. I want you to join me on this journey of providing peace, restorative justice, and conciliation to millions across the world by transforming the overwhelming majority of faith leaders globally via providing specialist training in ODR for them. I want to thank Professor Brian Hutchinson and his entire team at ODR 22 and the Sutherland School of Law at UCD in Dublin for inviting me to present on this important topic to raise awareness on the urgency of this cause for global peace. Thanks to all the faith leaders and ODR leaders and all the participants and all the leaders who have attended in person and online also. Thank you so much for taking the time out to listen to me. Thank you. I'm going to stop for if anyone has any questions. Yes.
Thank you so much for your presentation. We're very glad you're here and appreciate the work that you're doing around the world. I wonder if you can say more about what it means to be able to do this work through the use of technology. You talked about being able to help more efficiently or at a distance, and I wondered if you have more to share, either about ways it's been useful or any dilemmas that you've had, especially given your role to your community and also to other faith leaders.
Thank you so much, Leah, for that very important question. Technology is such a blessing, and especially with COVID, one of the greatest blessings that we were able to value was the use of Zoom and other apps. So with technology, I was able to bring on board some of the leading, Muslim arbitrators and mediators from the world to join my organization, my nonprofit organization. And in addition to that, just to be able to, whether it's LinkedIn, social media, being able to connect with so many inspiring leaders. If it wasn't for technology, I wouldn't have been able to take so many courses that I did. So technology is really a driving force and a vehicle that has allowed me to be able to literally be anywhere in the world, whether it's in Africa or Asia. But just like I said, being available for people. Whether someone's in Toronto, whether someone's in England. It's funny because when I'm in Toronto, I get a lot of people contacting me from England. So I'm doing mediations. And sometimes I'm getting people when I'm in England, I'm getting people contacting me when I'm in Toronto. So my goal is, there's only so much I can do. So wherever I'm going, I want to inspire other faith leaders to also be set up and be online and be active so that they can help their community members locally and also globally. So thank you so much for asking that. And one of the great benefits of Zoom when it comes to mediation and online dispute resolution is having breakout rooms. The use of breakout rooms, it's just amazing. Like, we can do caucusing, and, shuttle mediations. And also what we've also understood is, a lot of the times online dispute resolution allowed for my work specifically. What happened during COVID was a lot of people, they became more stressed, and disputes, instead of disputes self-resolving, those disputes, escalated, and the pain was increasing. People didn't want to see each other. People said, I only want to see people who care about me, people who've hurt me. I don't want nothing to do with them. But online mediation and specifically technology allowed people who really literally did not want to see each other eye to eye, but they agreed to come online because you don't have to be in the same room. Everyone is in their own comfort zone. And so technology is such a great blessing. And another great thing that technology facilitated for myself was efficiency, financial efficiency, not having to rent space, not having to rent boardrooms, not having to, spend thousands of dollars renting office space, paying, what is it, $200, to $300 for the Zoom membership for a nonprofit, and basically, enabling, and helping so many people across the world. So that was actually very, very handy. So thank you so much for asking that. So yeah, technology was really a gift of God and it is a gift of God. So thank you so much for this question. So our services, so no, they are not limited to only the Muslim community. I'm also a faculty member of the Canadian Collaborative for Engagement and Conflict Management. Again, I'm very fortunate to be the first faith leader in the world to be a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. So part of the Canadian Collaborative for Engagement and Conflict Management, we provide training for faith leaders. But in addition to that, we also provide services, mediation services, arbitration services. So I'm also an independent arbitrator. Also, I provide consulting for faith-based organizations, because nowadays, whenever we want to incorporate an organization, you want to start a charity, we always start a charity with high spirits or a business. We don't think about conflict, but we always need to make sure that there's a clause in that business or within that charity, there's a bylaw or provision that states if the parties or if the directors or if the members or founders of this organization will enter into a dispute, then they will, there will be mediation or arbitration. So I help draft such clauses, because remember, there's one thing, dispute resolution is one thing, but dispute avoidance is just as important. So I'm willing to help also, if it's for a charity or faith-based organization, our services, we offer pro bono services for people who have financial difficulties, but even our service costs are very nominal, because the goal was to provide efficient services. So we can help people across the world. Yes.
I have a further question.
Sure.
Thank you for your presentation. And I just wanted to find out from you, have you actually thought about using dedicated ODR platforms apart from Zoom for your mediations? Have you thought about it? And then have you also thought about the different other ways you could use technology, particularly where you are in areas where, for instance, the bandwidth of the parties are not able to use Zoom or any other thing, because you always have to balance when you're in the online access of both parties, and you don't want to create an imbalance of some sort. Do you think about those kind of things even in dealing with your parties? That's what I just wanted you to find out. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. There's situations where people don't have Zoom, so it's it could be sometimes WhatsApp video, whatever is available really. And now, thankfully, there's so many other platforms out there, and someone's using Microsoft Teams, someone's using WebEx, and sometimes someone's messaging me on Instagram asking for conflict management advice. So it's basically, at the same time, there are a lot of there's some amazing leaders here from across the world who have also initiated and founded some new platforms. So we're always looking to find the most efficient and easiest platforms out there to be able to help the people. And sometimes it's just a phone call, the old school audio phone call, because some people don't want to talk on video, and so it's just giving people access, and that's what it is. Thank you so much. Yes, Doctor.
I think for the Muslim community in Ireland, and for Muslims in general, if they're looking for conflict resolution, they're looking for resolutions based on their religion. They're more or less concerned about how to sort out their problems on religious foundations, especially when it comes to family affairs, because the marriage institution is seen by Muslims as a religious institution. So I think to be an arbitrator or to be down this line, Muslims will be looking for somebody who has Islamic background. And you're quite right, the faith leaders in the Muslim community, they are in a very good position when it comes to people's trust, and people unfold their heart before they announce their freely. But you also said something very, very important. Yes, there is a need for a special training when it comes to conflict resolution. But my point here is that how to approach statutory bodies in respective countries to gain recognition or maybe credibility for what an organization like this can do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, very important question. On that note, like I mentioned earlier, a faith leader, like, an individual who's leading a center like yourself, by default, whether it's, government officials, councillors, mayors, municipal government, federal government, they are willing to work with you and work to help set up such services or community. This is a community-based service. It's like a community center, cultural services. And that's why the first step would be, once you have the accreditation and certification and training and the expertise in that field, and then when you're able to showcase to these, to these stakeholders that we have such a large community, we're serving such, thousands of people, and we want to offer this program. For example, it could be a community justice initiative. It could be, a service within an existing mosque, a center for dispute resolution, for Muslim conflict management. That could, in a sense, help people avoid, submitting applications in the courtroom. So once you have that training, and on top of that, you showcase the need and the impact that you would have on your community, I am 100% sure that the government would support this. And I myself have noticed that, right now I'm working on a very important project in Canada, where we're working on some serious funding. And one of the critical elements in order to get that funding is for to promote restorative justice within the community. And I'm also aware of some friends of mine in Canada who are obtaining funding to set up community mediation services. So this is, and right now I have friends who are federal prosecutors, judges, and even with the courts right now in England, I'm sure in Ireland as well, in Canada, mediation and the fact that we have access to virtual mediation and virtual services, the courts are pushing people to mediation now, because dispute resolution is the way forward. Litigation is no longer affordable whatsoever. And so I think that would be my advice would be, get the training, get the certification, get the credentials, get the expertise, and then, showcase, make a proposal, make a proper plan of action, an impact report. And I'm sure the government and all the stakeholders would definitely support that. And if the government, for example, for whatever reason, cannot provide funding because there's no funding available, the Muslim community or the faith community themselves will donate for such a project. And I know myself, like so many entrepreneurs, there's times where I needed funds for marketing, for various things. And there's people, they say to me, just tell us the amount and we will write you the check. Because people understand that this right now, dispute resolution, without any exaggeration, is the most important need for the community, for every community. Right now, if I go over time, there's a dispute. Right now, when I go outside, wherever we go, life, disputes are inevitable. So, and in faith-based communities, in families, with the way the world is going now, and people are more, there's less personal interactions, and there's a lot of misunderstandings, social media, all these things, disputes are only going to rise. I'll tell you something funny. When I was studying dispute resolution, one of my instructors and one of my inspirations, he said, guys, we're in the business of dispute resolution, and disputes aren't going to stop anytime soon. So basically, he said, we're in the right field. And that's why, as faith leaders, the quicker we can get that training, we can really make such a drastic impact. I'm surprised, and like I mentioned in the presentation, it really was surprising when I realized like there was such a gap in this. And one of the reasons that a gap does exist, and how many faith leaders did not necessarily, feel the need to obtain the necessary training, was because the field of dispute resolution, online dispute resolution, mediation, even until today, is mainly a field where mostly people from the law sector, lawyers and people from the law industry, legal sector, are mainly, leading in this field, and they have been for a long time. But I believe in disruptive leadership, and the world needs disruptive leadership. And we're living in a time where, one career isn't enough. You need to have multiple careers. There's a saying as well, there's articles that, if you have multiple careers, that's actually better for your health. Because in the morning you work as a teacher, and in the evening you work as a yoga instructor. Like, I have a friend, he's in the morning he works as a planner 9 to 5, He's a planning consultant. And then in the evening so as faith leaders, we need to be multifaceted. And when we have these various skills, it will give us the confidence mainly, because honestly, some disputes like I have faith leaders calling me and they say to me, can you tell me what I should do and what I should ask? Where should I invite them? Should I invite them to my home? So I just say to them now, you know what, just come and join my course. Because, and I remember someone messaged me once, can I come with you, join you for a couple of days? And I learn how to do dispute resolution. I said, if it was that easy, nothing is that easy. You have to actually, sit down and, attend a course. And I'm so grateful that, thankfully I've designed the first certificate course across the world, the first global certificate course in conflict management and mediation for faith leaders. So that's going to happen in September. And those of you who want to join, please reach out to me. And sure, I'll send you my email address and you can reach out to me. Thank you so much for listening to me, and then thank you so much for your enthusiasm. And again, if you know a faith leader, the next time you go to your church, you go to your place of worship, have a conversation. Maybe your faith leader will say, oh, I don't want to get the training, or I don't need to get training, but maybe you can initiate a center for restorative justice in your church or in your place of worship, and just imagine the rewards you get. So I had a meeting with the Prime Minister last Friday, and I met an individual, and we started talking, and I gave him my card, and he said, I'm going to go to my church and I'm going to give this to my pastor because I think he could really benefit from this. So I'm just so happy. I love interfaith. So happy to do interfaith work, but the fact that now I can serve faith leaders and empower them and transform them, I think this is a great blessing for me, and I'm so excited. And like I said, I'm at the service of faith leaders, and I'm just trying my best to make a difference in the world. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.